Orange Country is beginning to forget what the sun looks like. An overcast Friday afternoon is the home opener for Tennessee, looking for a 19th straight win in home openers. Kansas, the only team that's ever beaten them, is in town at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium. And we are just about ready here for first pitch. Tennessee against Kansas. Ashley Rogers in the circle to start things off against Ramsey. And we are underway here on an overcast day. Rogers gets strike one and dealing here with Ramsey, who missed last week for the Jayhawks. Little floater down the third base line is foul. We take a look at the starting lineup for the Kansas Jayhawks in this one. Ramsey at the top, and the top of the lineup has been fairly consistent. It's that bottom portion that Coach Jennifer McFalls is trying to get some consistency from.
And Coach really likes Sydney Ramsey in that leadoff spot, but like you said, she wasn't able to play there last weekend due to this nagging injury in her knee.
Bouncer right back to the circle. Rogers snares it and throws the first for the first out here of the contest. And Tennessee's defense has been really solid to begin the year. It started in the circle with the ability to strike out batters. And Ashley Rogers, just a freshman, and Coach Karen Weekly already out to the circle to have a conversation, but she was very impressed with what Rogers was able to bring to the table, specifically against the reigning national champions in Florida State on Sunday.
Well, the really impressive thing was the fact that Ashley Rogers went out there. She ended up giving up back-to-back home runs, but shut down that Florida State lineup throughout the entirety, or throughout the rest of the game, which, if I believe, is the first time this season that Florida State has been shut down in those later innings.
Florida State off to a terrific start to the season. The reigning national champions and the top team in the country. Tennessee falling there in Clearwater. So now Madison Sykes will stand in after the mound visit from Karen Weekly. Swing and a miss, and that's been something big for Tennessee at the beginning. All three of their pitchers, and having Rogers as that additional depth piece has kind of changed the game so far for Tennessee.
Well, and Ashley Rogers just has a great presence on the mound. She works at a very good pace, too, and you can see that her and Allie Shipman back there behind the plate really have a connection, being that they're both freshmen coming in the same year.
Yeah, very interesting to see a battery of two freshmen, and, of course, your sister behind the plate in Allie. And so far, Karen Weekly has been impressed with her presence behind the plate and how she's handled the staff.
Well, when you're going to sit back there behind the plate, you've got to make sure that you are in charge of the defense, and not just the defense, but specifically your pitcher. You've got to have that good relationship.
1 ball and 2 strikes to count.
And I think that's especially hard now because you can see that Ashley Rogers is getting those signals in from the dugout. It used to be getting them directly from the catcher, but now you've got to work even harder as a catcher to make sure that you and your pitcher are on the same page.
Pop up back and out of here. Count holding the ball and 2 strikes. Just that additional piece of information, the wristband that both the catcher and pitcher have, is Allie Shipman looks into the dugout for the sign and then sets up. 1-2 pitch, stays high. And for Tennessee, I think you mentioned it earlier, their pitching staff, at least part of the ability for the defense to have some success is the fact that there have been some more pop-ups. Pitchers pitching up in the zone so far this season.
And Ashley Rogers is one of those rise ball pitchers. She's going to spin the ball up in the zone and induce a lot of those pop-ups, which for the most part are your easier outs on the field.
Pretty good at bat going here for Sykes as she's run the count full at 3 balls and 2 strikes. Coach McFalls was fairly happy with the hitting performances so far this year. The results haven't exactly been there to begin this season. There's strike 3 call. That's a nice pitch from Rogers to get the strikeout, and that was a good battle on the second batter of the ball game, but Rogers able to win it.
A very good at bat by Sykes, but an even better pitch by Ashley Rogers. She throws this low rise up and in on the hands just in the strike zone to get strikeout number 1 for Rogers on the day.
Here's Kansas's leading hitter, Shelby Gayer, on the season hitting .393 and up there swinging early. Gayer 1 home run and 5 driven in on the season. It's her 10th start of the year. Behind the plate this season after playing shortstop a year ago.
And Coach McFall said that Shelby Garrett is not even close to the same player that she was at the start of the year. She's now so much more of an aggressive hitter up at the plate, and I think she's embraced that challenge of being a catcher and being that leader on the defense rather than being at shortstop like you said last year.
2-strike pitch is a foul ball back. The more aggressive she is, the more success that she has. And we see it right here in her very first at bat. First pitch swinging and aggressive early in the count. Nothing in 2 and holding as Rogers looking to set down the Jayhawks in order in the first. Missing down and in. It's 1 ball and 2 strikes.
And as an aggressive hitter, I think that's an extremely tough take. You see that ball, you know you're facing a rise ball pitcher, so you're looking low in the zone. Ashley Rogers brings that low rise ball in just at the knees, and she takes it without even flinching. Really good at bat so far.
Good eye there as well. Pitch that just misses off the plate away.
And when we talk about aggressive hitters, there's always that fine line of being too aggressive. You never want to go up there and swing completely out of the zone, but you can tell Gare here really has control of this at bat, and she knows exactly what she's looking for in this count.
Late on that one, strike 3, and Rogers does a nice job in the first. 2 strikeouts in the opening half, and the Lady Vols come to the plate. Very windy and overcast day. Ashley Rogers 2 strikeouts in the top of the first, and now the Lady Vols coming to the plate in the bottom of the first inning. Alongside the All-American and former SEC Player of the Year, Madison Shipman, I'm Michael Watcher. Glad you're spending some time with us here on this Friday. And for Tennessee, Chelsea Segrin off to a really nice start to the season.
Well, it's no secret that Tennessee lost their All-American Megan Gregg, but Chelsea Segrin stepping up right in that role, and you'll notice here throughout these swings that she's hitting the ball all over the place. It doesn't matter if it's to center, it doesn't matter if it's to left. She is pounding the ball all over the field, scoring RBI after RBI for her team, and not to mention, these are against top 25 teams.
Very challenging schedule for Tennessee already this season, and Chelsea Segrin off to a phenomenal start to the year. For the Lady Vols, 14 RBIs, a top 5 batting average in the league thus far. For the Weeklies here at Tennessee, ranked 8th in the country to begin the season. At the top of the lineup, though, Aubrey Leach, All-American from a season ago, and she's picked up right where she's left off a year ago. Leach hitting .516 on the season, has already scored 14 runs. She was the nation's leader in the category last season. And right in the middle there, Amanda Ayala has really stepped her game up, the sophomore after a quality freshman year, and then Gracie Osborne, her first career start here for the Lady Vols at shortstop.
And I don't think we can talk enough about Aubrey Leach and how she sets the tone for this Tennessee lineup. You see when she goes up there, she mixes swings away, she mixes slaps, she mixes bunts. You never know what she's going to do.
Lines this one off of third. Counts 1 ball and 2 strikes. And for Tennessee, you talk about the loss of Megan Gregg, who's the program's leader in home runs, RBIs, and slugging percentage. Leach is back. She's going to get on base. It's who's going to drive her in, and so far it's been Segrin. Leach hits one right back up the middle. Base hit. And Aubrey Leach does what she so often does, and that's a leadoff base runner for the Lady Vols. In the circle today for Kansas is Bryn Miner. 2 years ago, she was the junior college Player of the Year. And we mentioned some of the injuries that Kansas has had. She didn't have an injury. She had the flu, and she's out here for Kansas in the circle on a Friday afternoon. There goes Leach after this ball sails over the top of the catcher. And Leach is already into scoring position, just like that.
And going back to Bryn Minor, I would say that if you asked her, she would probably say the flu might have been a little worse than an injury. She might have rather had a sprained ankle or sprained finger than the flu. I don't know if any of you have ever had the flu, but it is not fun.
Bunt attempt here from Holcomb to get Leach to third as the putout works 5-3 on the sacrifice bunt. And just like that, Tennessee, whose offense once again been stout.
Up next to the Lady Vols, a junior from Thrall, Texas.
Is threatening here in the bottom of the first inning.
And it looks like Aubrey Leach is back at second base, so I'm wondering if they did indeed call Jenna Holcomb out of the box on that bunt, because Aubrey Leach took second on that wild pitch, and they moved her back to 2, and now we got 1 out on the inning. So remember that rule change from last year. If your foot is even a little bit outside of those chalk lines, you're going to get called out immediately.
So Leach still at second base and 1 out, so instead of the sacrifice, Leach has to stay at second base, and it is a rule that, certainly going to be very tight in the way that they call it, and something that the players are going to have to adjust to here at the beginning of the year. Foul ball back. As for Minor, she started the year, first couple outings, 11 earned runs in 7 1/3, and then she bounced back, just 8 earned runs in her last 22 innings pitched. So she's been better here of late, and a tall task here today against this Tennessee lineup.
And Coach McFall said that she gained a lot of confidence in that second weekend out. And you'll notice that she's going to work the ball more down in the zone. She's going to throw that drop ball. She spots it well, and she mixes speeds as well. So she's not necessarily your quote-unquote strikeout pitcher, but she's trying to get these Tennessee hitters to miss-hit it just enough to where she can get easy outs.
2-2's down and away, and the count runs full here to Segern, trying to knock in another run. 14 on the season, leading the team in the category. A junior coming off of a solid sophomore campaign a year ago, over 60 RBIs. Payoff pitch to her. That's off the plate away for ball 4. And Tennessee now with runners at first and second base and 1 out. So let's go back to that play with Holcomb on that bunt attempt.
Number 7, Ashley.
And you can see that her left toes get just outside of that chalk line. And especially because the ground's wet, you got fresh chalk on the ground. It's an easy call for those umpires to make when her foot is out. But instead of getting that sack bunt, Aubrey Leach has to go back to second.
Rocket back up the middle by Ashley Morgan. Leach cuts the corner at third. She'll cross the plate. Over to third base goes Segern, and Tennessee scores first here in the bottom of inning number 1 on the RBI single from Morgan.
Ashley Morgan, another one of those hitters in this Tennessee lineup that has really stepped up to the plate now that Megan Gregg is gone. And you look at that, she gets a pitch low in the zone and drives it right back up the middle, far enough to allow Aubrey Leach to score easily from second base for run number 1.
Number 13, Amanda
Segern over to third, and now here's Amanda Ayala, who's really stepped her game up this season. A .440 batting average to begin the year, 2 home runs, 12 driven in, after a year ago where she hit .286 at the plate. Strike 1 taken by Ayala, and she's really taken her game up a notch, and the weeklies even talked about it. They said that Ayala kind of dipped her toe in the water, and the weeklies challenged her to just do a cannonball into the pool.
I really like that analogy by Karen Weekly earlier. But I think it's you look at Amanda Ayala's stats from last season, 289, 2 home runs. Again, not bad stats at all, but they expected more from Amanda Ayala coming into this season, and she has completely embraced that challenge. She is aggressive in her at-bats and hitting with power as well.
Squeeze bunt here. We'll get Segern in. Low throw to first. Cannot be picked out by Rodriguez. Everybody's safe, and Tennessee has scored 2 here in the first.
And just like we were talking about the power from Amanda Ayala, I like that call by Coach Ralph Weekly. Squeeze bunts are really hard plays to defend in general, but especially when you know you've got a power hitter up at the plate. She drops that ball down absolutely perfectly. She squares late, gets that bunt down in fair territory. You can even see her checking to make sure that ball is fair all the way down the line.
So they actually give that a base hit for Ayala, and the RBI as looked like she was stepping on the first base bag prior to the throw getting there. And now it brings Haley Beard into the plate. Tennessee doing a good job here early, just putting pressure on Kansas's defense at the outset. They've hit some balls fairly hard up the middle, but it's not been these big swats from the Tennessee lineup.
And hats off to Bryn Minor. Her job is to make sure that the ball stays in the park, and that's exactly what she's doing. She's throwing the ball low in the zone, trying to induce a bunch of ground balls. But again, just smart play calling by that squeeze play to get that second run across the board.
3 base hits, a walk in this inning. Bearden takes a good pitch right there at the knees as Minor gets ahead at 1-2.
And we talked about Minor being able to mix speeds. There was that off speed right there, and Haley Bearden knows she does not want to swing at that one, but now she's down behind in the count, 1-2.
Bearden fouls one straight back. And if you're Minor here, you're a double play ball away from getting out of this inning, and even if you can't get a double play, a couple quick outs, and you limit the damage to just 2 runs in the first inning.
And you'll notice their corners are playing way back behind the plate because they know the power Bearden has.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Bearden on the season hitting at a .235 clip. Has a home run. Potentially could have 2. Weren't for a great play by Danny Morgan on Sunday. Just missing low and away to run the count full at 3-2. That's a tough take there from Bearden.
A very tough take. That was a very nice drop ball in the low outside corner, and it must have just missed right below that strike zone, but again, a good 2-2 pitch.
Payoff pitch is in the dirt. Second walk issued by Minor here in the first inning, and Tennessee has the bases loaded, and it brings Allie Shipman to the plate.
Well, and as a pitcher, that's exactly what you didn't want to happen. You get ahead in the count 1-2, and then you find your way into a full count, and then ultimately walking the batter to load the bases here with 1 away.
Almost being too cautious with 2 runners on as Allie Shipman stands in. She swings at the first pitch, a pitch in on the hands, and rolls it up the first base line. Shipman at .250 on the year, but the 12 RBI. She had a solid single back into center when it looked like Tennessee was going to make a comeback against top-ranked Florida State on Sunday.
I can't speak enough to that atmosphere down at that Florida tournament. It felt like the postseason. I got the opportunity to fly down there and watch those games, and I tell you what, it was so packed for that Tennessee-Florida State game that my family and I ended up having to stand down the left field line because there were no more room in the stands.
Shipman takes a strike. It's 1-2. That event put on by ESPN, and certainly a phenomenal atmosphere. Karen Weekly said they played down there before, but it was nothing like what they had here. And for some of the freshmen, it was their first real taste at a big-time atmosphere. Shipman slices this one foul into the screen, and it's still 1-2.
And you talking about these freshmen getting a taste of that atmosphere, I can't speak enough to how important that is moving forward throughout the SEC season, but also for postseason as well. Like I said, it was a postseason atmosphere. It felt like the SEC tournament or the World Series right there in February.
Shipman rolls one back to the mound. Minor to the plate for 1, and that will be all they get. Fielder's choice works 1-2. Bases still loaded here with 2 outs.
Bryn Minor doing another really good job of getting ahead on Allie Shipman. She throws a ball low in the zone, gets her to hit this ball right off of the end of the bat. You can see Allie Shipman is late on that pitch, ends up hitting it right back to Bryn Minor for an easy out number 2 at home plate.
So now the first career at bat here for the rookie shortstop, Gracie Osborne. It's from the right-hand side. She takes strike 1. Had a broken leg last year, July 1st, in travel ball of last year, and has had to work her way back and getting an opportunity to play here today. She lines one through the hole on the right side of the infield. Ayala is in to score. Throw to the plate is late. And Tennessee gets 2 across as Bearden comes in after Ayala. And on the first career at bat for Osborne, a 2-run single to right with 2 outs.
Does it get much better for your first at bat in college to come up and get this pitch and drive it right to right field to score not only 1, but 2 RBIs for your team? It does not get any better. Gracie Osborne coming up off the bench in her first start and doing that in her first at bat is absolutely unbelievable. Definitely a bat that these Tennessee Volunteers have been missing in their lineup.
So she starts her career with a base hit to right. And now Tennessee brings Caitlin Parsons to the plate. Another freshman, as Tennessee has scored 4 times here in the opening inning. There's a strike on the outside corner. It's 1-1. And it's not often you can have that kind of success on your very first at-bat to be able to put one in play with authority and, as you mentioned, get 2 RBIs out of it. Parsons bounces one back to the circle. Minor snares it and flips it over to first to end the inning. But Tennessee with a quality opening frame. Lady Vols bat around, including a little squeeze bunt from Amanda Ayala, and Tennessee leads it 4-0 after 1. Chilly Friday afternoon, some rain in the forecast, although it looks like it's clear right now. Tennessee leading Kansas 4-0 as we go to the top of the second inning. And it's a Kansas group that has had to deal with all sorts of injuries to begin the year. Brittany Jackson, the leadoff hitter from a year ago, broke her jaw. The all-freshman selection, pitcher utility player, Taryn Travieso, had an arm injury. She's expected to actually get some action here this weekend. But for Coach Jennifer McFalls in her first season, it's been a very difficult start to the year in terms of health.
And I've got to imagine Taryn Travieso is probably one of the ones they are missing the most, especially in this game. She is a left-handed pitcher, which would be crucial going up against a Tennessee lineup that is absolutely stacked with left-handed hitters. But they are working to try to get her back. It's almost more difficult when it's one of those things where she could play one day and can't play the next. And as far as we know, when we talk to Coach McFall, she is week to week.
She wasn't released to throw until the very first weekend. And it's kind of been easing her back into the mix. But as Coach McFall said, adding her back will be critical for this Kansas team moving forward. As you mentioned, a left-hander out there that can spin it really well will be different for this pitching staff that is struggling a little bit to start the year. Top of the second inning, Ashley Rogers set down the Jayhawks in 1-2-3 fashion in the first, and Becky Monahan will stand in. .333 batter on the year, a couple home runs, 6 driven in. Rocket into right field, tracing over in that direction is Amanda Ayala to put a squeeze on it, but pretty solid contact there for Monahan.
And it looks like they did make a defensive change out in right field. That is Kaylin Hannon that just made that play. Amanda Ayala has actually moved over to left field. Nice grab by Kaylin Hannon. Again, speaks to the fact that this Tennessee team is a lot of rise ball pitchers, so they're going to get those outs up in the air, just like that one that we just saw to Kaylin Hannon.
Tennessee is one of 2 teams this season to not make an error. Robert Morris is the other team that has yet to make an error in the field this year. pop up back behind the plate. Shipman giving chase, and she makes the catch. Nice little basket grab right against the padding behind the plate, and the freshman snares it for the second out.
Hey, with those rise ball pitchers, sometimes you get a pop fly in the outfield, sometimes you get him behind the plate. Allie Shipman going right into that wall, making a great catch, great effort for her pitcher.
Very alert, and see her get a smile on her face as she looks into the dugout for the sign. 5 up, 5 down for Rogers, and now Jennifer Marwitz will stand in. The missing piece, I feel like, for Tennessee last year, after they started 30-1, was that third pitcher, an extra look. And so far, Rogers this season has kind of separated herself in that group to become that third option. This ball's popped into right center field. Hannon calling, but instead it's the center fielder. Parsons making the grab, and that ends the inning. Another 1-2-3 fashion for Rogers. 6 up, 6 down as Tennessee leads it 4-0. Tennessee leads Kansas 4-0 in the first day of this Tennessee Classic here at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium. Aubrey Leach will lead off the bottom of the second inning. Leach already off to a great start to this season after leading the SEC in batting average and runs scored a year ago. She's putting, again, lofty standards to her senior season.
And there's several reasons why Aubrey Leach is so good, but one of those reasons is because she is very dynamic up at the plate. It makes it very hard for defenses and pitchers to know how to throw to Aubrey.
Leach singled in the first as she flies this down the left field line. Bermel giving chase and just cannot quite get the glove out there in time to snare it as it falls foul for strike one. To me, the most impressive thing about Leach's season a year ago wasn't necessarily the average or the runs scored. It was the fact that she reached base in 57 of 59 games. I mean, that is putting a ton of pressure on the opponent.
And whether it be by a walk, a hit, or an error, she is on base, and she's always a threat to steal when she gets on there.
Squared the bunt this time. We've seen everything. She hit the ball back up the middle. She's fouled a ball down the third base line, down the left field line, a bunt shown here. As you mentioned, the pressure just ratchets up when she's at the plate. 2-1 the count to her as she takes low and away. The 2-1 pitch. Again off the plate away. It's 3 balls and a strike here to Leach.
And when you take a look at their infield, you'll notice that their middle infielders are playing in. They're trying to defend that slap. That's really what you got to do. You got to decide if you're going to defend the slap or the base hit. And in this at-bat, they are defending that slap.
She rockets this one to left field. Bermel going back. She reaches up, and it's over her head. Leach into second base. It'll be a double for the senior. A single and a double through her first 2 trips to the plate.
And just like the defense is trying to read Aubrey Leach is reading that defense, and she knows that that infield was playing her in, so she steps up and drives this ball over the left fielder's head for an easy stand-up double.
Like Bermel just slightly overran it, didn't get enough depth. And Leach is aboard again, and it brings a chance here for Tennessee as Hannon will stand in, entered in right field in the top half of this inning.
Kaylin Hannon's another lefty hitter in this Tennessee lineup that has the ability to slap, bunt, and hit away.
Squares the bunt here and takes up and away. It counts 1 ball and 1 strike. Miner trying to settle down after a first inning in which she gave up 4 hits and 4 runs. Pitch misses up, pops out of the mitt of the catcher, throw down to third, and in there safely is Aubrey Leach as she takes the extra base.
A nice read by Aubrey Leach. That's not an easy base to steal, especially when you've got a left-handed batter in the left side of the box. Very easy throw for that catcher to make back over to third, but she read it so quickly she did not hesitate, makes it safely into third.
Hannon swings and misses, counts 2 balls and 2 strikes. Foul ball off to the left-hand side. 2-2 the count, and if you're Minor after that first inning, how do you try to put aside what happened in the first frame where you felt like you probably pitched pretty well and the results just weren't there to try to come back out here in the second?
Well, I think you said it. She pitched pretty well. She kept the ball down on the ground. I would go out there and keep attacking that strike zone, work those low corners, try to work some ground balls and get some quick outs here in the second inning.
Foul ball back to the screen again. Another quality at bat here from Tennessee early. Minor up over 40 pitches, nearing the 45 mark here in just the second inning.
And that pitch count getting up there goes back to the fact that she's been getting ahead on some of these Tennessee batters, but ends up falling behind and sometimes walking them.
Roller back to the circle. Minor will look back. Leach throw the first. Here comes Leach to the plate. She is out. Really good throw from Monahan. And then Gayer right behind the plate was able to make the catch and put it right on Leach for the out.
I think Bryn Minor heard us talking up here about trying to get some ground balls because that's exactly what she did. Kaylin Hannon hits this ball right off the end of the bat back to Bryn Minor. Does a good job getting that throw over to first base and then back to Shelby Gayer for the out at home.
Up next for the Big Orange, the third baseman, number 7.
Minor looked back Leach, who really didn't retreat at all. And as soon as Minor turned her back, she sprinted home. And a bang-bang play at the plate, and there's 2 outs. A roller out to second. Rodriguez to her left, throws out Segern. And that's a minimum faced inning for Bryn Minor. Tennessee leads 4-0 as Ashley Rogers back to the circle in the third. Aubrey Leach has a couple base hits in the contest, but in the second inning, she was thrown out at the plate on this bang-bang play. They got the out at first. Then here come the throw to the plate. Tag was applied. I think, as you mentioned, Coach Weekly might have been asking whether or not there was obstruction, but it looked like the left foot of Gayer didn't go into the line until after she possessed the ball.
And I guarantee you that's exactly what Coach Karen Weekly was arguing. Remember, you are not allowed to be in the base path without the ball. So she's arguing there that her left foot might have been in the base path. It's kind of hard to tell, but again, a bang-bang close play. Aubrey Leach trying to take advantage of this Kansas defense, but they end up getting the best of her.
4-0 Tennessee on top here in the third as this pitch is low and away. Tennessee has won 18 consecutive home openers. The only time they lost a home opener, you go back to March 10th of 2000. Kansas with the victory. Tennessee 22-1 all time in home openers. 8-2 to begin this season. Pop-up foul and out of here. Miranda Rodriguez at the plate for the Jayhawks. Ashley Rogers settling in quite nicely out there in the circle. Just 24 pitches, and she set down the side in order in each of the first 2 innings. There's a strike right down the middle. Coach Weekly talked about Ashley Rogers, really likes what she's seen from her, but she's such a perfectionist that sometimes she lets that affect her mood out there in the circle.
Feels like most pitchers seem to be perfectionists out there. But that can definitely be a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing in the sense that Ashley Rogers is never satisfied out there. She's always trying to do better than the pitch before, but on the flip side, if you're being too much of a perfectionist, you can nitpick a little too much and end up making more mistakes than you would normally.
1-2 pitch is fouled back. One thing that Coach Weekly mentioned was the fact that freshmen have to learn that you're not going to have your A-plus game every single time you're out there. And you have to adjust and be able to win games when you have your B, your C-type games, and find ways to get outs.
And like she said, not every day you're not going to have all 5 of your pitches working, but what can you do to make sure you still sit batters down, even with your second or your third or your fourth best pitch? Two balls and 2 strikes to count here on Rodriguez. Rogers looking for what would be a 3rd strikeout.
misses high, and much like the issue has been for Minor on Kansas's side, this time around, Rogers getting ahead in the count, and now she's run the count full at 3-2.
And I tell you what, I've got to tip my hat to Miranda Rodriguez on this at-bat. She's been laying off those rise balls out of the zone.
But too tardy on the heat from Rogers for strike 3. Third punch out now for Rogers. She's retired the front 7 of this contest. And you look at Rogers, she's mixed things up really well.
She's throwing that low rise ball, throwing the rise ball out of the zone, getting some of these hitters to chase way up at their shoulders. But again, coming in with that low rise, catching them off guard, and you saw right there that strikeout looking. That batter was not expecting that pitch to be where it was.
Shelby Houston standing in and taking strike 1. Rogers filling up the zone here early with her team on top 4-0. I think one of the big things that was taken away from the Florida State game on Sunday, there's a lot to take away from it, but what Ashley Rogers did against the Seminoles is something that Tennessee can really build upon. Kind of that typical freshman experience, gets out of a jam, gives up some home runs, then shuts down the Seminoles, but certainly something for Tennessee to look at in that atmosphere for a rookie in one of her first career pitching outings. To perform like that was something to build confidence.
And to build on what you said, not only just in that game was she able to turn it around, but earlier in that tournament, she had some games against Notre Dame and against Utah that weren't necessarily her best outings, but to come out there in that environment against the reigning national champions and to be able to shut them down in those late innings was a huge confidence builder for Ashley Rogers.
It's a strikeout swinging on a pitch down and away. 4 punch-outs. 8 up, 8 down for Rogers, and a big smile on her face, and I don't think we necessarily have to worry about her having a B or C game. I think she's got her A game here today.
Well, I tell you what, I really like that pitch. We've talked a lot about her rise ball and her low rise, but that fastball on the low outside corner had a bit of a drop to it. I'm liking that pitch.
So now Macy Omley will stand in, hitting here at the bottom of this Kansas lineup. Omley 227 on the season. All 5 of her hits have been singles. 4-0 Tennessee with a 4-run first. The difference right now as Omley swings and misses way out in front of it. And Rogers trying to go 9 up, 9 down here to begin this ball game. Missed down and away. Rogers had a 13 strikeout, 7-inning shutout effort against Boston 13 days ago. That's her best career outing, but her last 2 outings, she's given up 4 earned runs on 12 hits. Foul ball back to the screen. That was against Utah and then Florida State on back-to-back days. She was out of the batter's box again, and that ends the inning. So Tennessee on top 4-0. Offense looks to continue rocking and rolling. Tennessee leads Kansas 4-0 in its home opener in the first day of this 4-day Tennessee Classic. Tennessee off to a really good start to the season, but they do have a major hole. 2017 SEC Player of the Year, 2-time All-American, and the program's leader in 3 different statistical categories. Megan Gray, that is a big area for this group to try to make up here this season, despite an 8-2 start.
And not just her statistics and her hitting and her fielding ability, but that leadership. You're losing a senior leader, so you need somebody else to step up in that role. And I definitely think Aubrey Leach and Chelsea Sagern have really stepped up to that challenge to be those on the field and off the field leaders for this Tennessee team.
She was one that really got after it in the classroom and kind of set the tone for what a player needed to do off the field as well. But Tennessee off to a strong start to this campaign as Ashley Morgan leads off the 3rd inning. Tennessee on top 4-0 here on Kansas. Lady Vols in the top 25 in 16 consecutive seasons. As this one misses down and away, it's 2 balls and no strikes. Minor had a really good bounce back second inning. She gave up the double, but was able to get a ground out and then another ground ball that turned into that double play to face just the minimum in the second.
And we said that Bryn Minor was going to work low in the zone. She really likes that drop ball, and she's been able to pinpoint it where she wants to so far this game, especially in that second inning where she was able to be a lot more efficient within those at-bats. First inning, she got a couple of walks, but second inning, she was really on top of it. And then she mixes in that off-speed right there. It makes it very difficult for these Tennessee batters to get on time for these pitches.
Biggest area for her, according to Coach McFalls, was her confidence. She had a lot more confidence in weekend number 2. 3-1 is on the inside corner for a called strike, and it's 3-2. Tennessee batted around in the first inning, scoring 4 times. Then after the leadoff double in the second, the double play and the ground out to second. Tennessee's done a really good job of fouling balls off as well. Minor has gotten ahead in counts, but the ability of Tennessee to stay alive in some counts.
And once you get into this full count territory, you know that the pitcher has got to bring something over the dish. Otherwise, you're going to take first. And not to mention, it's starting to rain pretty good down there.
High pop-up. Looks like this will twist out of play.
And that rain can really be a factor for those drop ball pitchers because they're trying to get that ball on the ground, so it makes it even hard for these defenses to make these plays with the wet ball.
Payoff pitch on the way again, and there's strike 3 call. That was a nice pitch from Minor, and almost a sigh of relief out there on the mound that she was finally able to get a punch out.
And that's the exact same drop ball that she came in there on that 3-0 count. She noticed that Ashley Morgan was really crowding the plate, throws this drop ball low and inside, and it just catches the inside of that strike zone. Very nice pitch by Bryn Minor.
3 in a row now retired as Ayala stands up. She had a RBI single her first time up on that little squeeze bunt. Later came around to score on Osborne's base hit into right. Swing and a miss here. Ayala began this season in that very first day that the weeklies talked about that she had a different attitude, but that very first day of competition was not the same Amanda Ayala they saw in that first month of practice. And they had to sit down, they had to watch video, make some adjustments, and more so than anything, it had to do with the mental approach that she had, and she has responded well since. Two balls and 2 strikes to count here to Ayala.
And when we talk about Megan Gregg and we think back to her last season, so much confidence that she exuded, whether it be at shortstop or up at the plate. And that's what coaches Karen and Ralph Weekly wanted Amanda Ayala to embrace this year, to be confident, to be aggressive, and to be lost my wording there. I was trying to make that again, that analogy of jumping into the water, and they want her just to go at it with everything she's got and not leave anything off of the field.
Some puddles around here that she could potentially jump into on this rainy day. The 3-2 is fouled back into the left. Yeah, that was a really good analogy. She was tiptoeing around the pool and not plunging in, trying to see if the temperature's right her freshman year. But here so far as a sophomore, she's jumped right in, and it's shown the success as she draws a walk here on a quality 1-out at bat.
Bryn Minor trying to come back in with that low drop ball inside to these lefty batters and ends up getting a walk on that one. Very nice at bat by Amanda Ayala to lay off that pitch that's just below the strike zone.
So Ayala, a base runner for Tennessee.
Number 11, Haley
And now Haley Bearden will stand in. She drew a walk her first time up, one of the 3 that Minor has issued so far in this game. Bearden fouls it back. You mentioned the leadership aspect of things, and Karen Weekly talked about the fact that sometimes seniors try to cram everything into a 3-month window, and they kind of forget what they had done their first 3 seasons. And she feels confident, though, in what Aubrey Leach has brought to the table in terms of upping her leadership game more vocally than she had been a year ago.
And that's not an easy role to be thrust into. Some people are just born naturally better leaders than other, but Aubrey Leach really working to be that vocal leader on and off the field.
Bearden fouls another one off. It's 1 ball and 2 strikes.
And we'll see here if Bryn Minor can keep working to stay ahead of these Tennessee batters. So far this game, she doesn't seem to be having a hard time getting ahead of them early in the count. It's just staying there. She seems to start throwing balls as the counts go later and later. And like you said, these Tennessee batters are doing a very good job of fighting off those marginal pitches.
You see the ratio there. That is a lot of pitches out of the strike zone. But as you mentioned, a lot of those have come when it's 0-2, 1-2. Not so much her falling behind 3-0 and having to work back. This one will go to the backstop, and Ayala will hustle down to second base on the wild pitch. And just on cue, she gets ahead 1-2, and then doesn't really force Tennessee to swing the bat, misses way outside. And by doing so as well, she allows the runner to go into scoring position.
And there's always that fine line of you don't want to be too careful with your pitches, but you also want to make sure that they're competitive. You don't want to throw them so far out of the zone that nobody's going to swing at them.
High pop-up behind the plate, and it's dropped. And that'll go down as an error on the drop pop-up in foul ground. And that extends the at-bat here for Bearden rather than being the second out of the inning.
Shelby Guerra, a player that spent her freshman season at shortstop. She's now behind the plate. This is a very, very tough play. Again, you can see in that replay that we've got some rain, we've got a little bit of wind, but you just got to try to make sure that you're keeping your feet underneath the ball at all times. At the end of that play, you could see that ball ended up going way to her left, unable to make the play.
So that extends an opportunity here for Bearden with a runner in scoring position. Takes the pitch off the plate. That was very close. And Tennessee's eye at the plate here early as well. There's been a lot of those pitches that Minor would have loved to have gotten the call on and just hasn't gotten it from the home plate umpire. String is run out here. 3-2 pitch. Fly ball, deep left field, going back, Burmel at the wall, it's out of here! Haley Bearden goes yard to left field, and Tennessee expands its lead to 6-0.
That is her second home run of the season.
This Tennessee lineup is a lineup that you never want to give second chances to, and Haley Bearden takes advantage of that. She hit a pop fly right behind home plate that Shelby Gare wasn't able to snag, and take a look at this, driving that outside pitch off the plate, actually, over the left field wall to make Kansas pay for that mistake behind the plate.
Got to be really frustrating for Minor because probably should have had a second out and been working on Allie Shipman with a runner at second base, but instead Bearden gets a second chance after the drop pop-up and foul ground. And I think that's going to be the end of the day for Bryn Minor.
Really tough outing for Bryn Minor because, again, she was throwing the ball pretty well. The stats aren't going to really show that, but what we're seeing here is she's working the ball low in the zone, getting ahead of these batters. It's just a matter of staying ahead and her defense backing her up.
Once again, check the backside of your softball program.
Go back to even that first inning. It was just a couple seeing eye singles, just a few inches away from the infield. And as you mentioned, it's going to, at the end of the day, look like a 2 1/3 inning, 6 earned run effort. And I am surprised that they didn't give the error to Gare on that pop-up in foul ground, a drop pop-up. Should have been an error on her that extended the at-bat. But a struggle in terms of the line for Minor, but some confidence in her is what she was able to do when she bounced back in the second inning. And like I said, probably 2 outs with a runner at second base here in the third with just 4 runs across. So now they bring in Mandy Roberts, who, as you see, very limited action in the circle. Just 2 1/3 innings so far this season. And she comes on here for Minor. This is the first of 4 days here at this complex in the Tennessee Classic. Gymnastics takes over the SEC Network every Friday night, and tonight the number 7 Georgia Gym Dogs and the number 3 Florida Gators square off in Gainesville at 7 p.m. Eastern. Then it's 5th-ranked LSU and Arkansas from Barnhill Arena. Friday Night Heights is also streaming live on the ESPN app. Roberts pitched an inning against Arizona State, gave up 2 earned, and then came back against Providence, one of the 2 wins for Kansas this year, and went an inning and a third, giving up a hit in that outing. So she comes in with nobody on base, 2 runs in off of the Bearden home run, and now Allie Shipman standing in. Shipman hit into a fielder's choice her first time up. Base is empty, trying to reignite a new rally for the Lady Vols. Finding some pitching right now for Coach McFalls is the biggest question that she has with this year's group. She'll eventually be able to get healthy in terms of her overall lineup and put together a pretty solid lineup once Big 12 play hits. But she talked about all the pitchers that she's used this year, and even Travieso, who will come back at some point. And somebody needs to step up and take the bull by the horns and kind of separate themselves from the rest of the staff.
And one of the things that this staff is missing is experience. Their 2 main pitchers from last year threw over 250 innings, and as a staff, combined innings from last year is only 98.
Shipman flies it to center field. Omley has it for the second out. So now Gracie Osborne will stand in. She had a rocket to the right side. Very first career at bat after missing the first 10 games, recovering from an injury. And she produced 2 with 2 outs as well.
Talk about making your presence known. Not only does she hit this ball, but she drives it to right center. And that shows you that she's really been able to use her legs and utilize that swing.
A roller out in front of the plate. Gare picks it up with a bare hand and throws out Osborne for the out, and that ends the inning. Good job by Roberts ending the frame as Haley Bearden goes yard, and Tennessee leading it 6-0 after 3. Tennessee leads Kansas 6-0 as we go to the 4th inning here at the Sherry Parker Lee Stadium. Monday, our next SEC Inside gives you an all-access pass to South Carolina and LSU basketball for never-before-seen footage and sounds from the season so far. Special times this week, inside the Gamecocks at 6 Eastern, 5 Central. Then it's the Tigers right here on the SEC Network and the ESPN app. Well, these 2 coaches have some experience together and some jubilation together as well. Jennifer McFalls, a member of the USA national team from 94 to 2000. Ralph Weekley was the hitting coach on those national teams, and in 2000, Coach McFalls scored the game-winning run in the gold medal game. And her career as an Olympian is something that she talked about, and I thought it was really interesting how she talked about how she uses that Olympic experience, that they spend so much time as an individual when nobody else is watching, and she's trying to build that culture within her team now, that being an Olympic athlete, you have to hold yourself to a higher standard, and she wants her team to do just that. Ashley Rogers back out to work here in the top of the 4th inning. She's retired all 9 batters that she's faced thus far.
And going back to that standard that you were talking about, Coach McFalls is trying to instill a sense of independent amongst her team, because there's so much time that you spend off the field when you're in college versus when you were in travel ball. When you're in travel ball, your parents are with you majority of the time, or your hitting coach, or whatever it may be. But when you're in college, you're only allowed to be on the field for so many hours during the day. So it's, what are you doing with the rest of your time to make your game better?
She talked about a healthy competition in practice. The week before the start of the season, she mentioned that no lineup positions were solidified at that point. Everything was still wide open, and that the team needs to stay in the moment, compete every single inning, and to find that energy and passion on a pitch-to-pitch basis. She almost talked about in a way that she almost has to kind of change the entire mindset of this group as they try to prepare to be successful in Big 12 play. Rogers has fallen behind 3-0 here to Ramsey, and she issues her first base runner of the ball game on a 4-pitch walk to lead off the fourth. Retired the first 9.
A very uncharacteristic at bat for Ashley Rogers so far, and got to wonder if maybe her hands are starting to get a little wet. It seems like she's checking that glove, but again, you got to make sure that you're working that strike zone. Those misses are just missing by too much to where you're not getting these Kansas batters to swing and chase.
Pinch running at first base, number 20, Emily Bermel.
Emily Bermel will pinch run at first base.
And stepping to the plate for the Jayhawks, number 4.
And now Madison Sykes will stand in. She struck out looking her first time up. So the first base run of the game here for Kansas. And Rogers misses here again. And as we talked about with Rogers, there are times where she looks absolutely brilliant, and then there are other times where maybe she looks a little bit like a freshman, and I think that's what Karen Weekly's heading out to the circle to have a conversation about, because it can happen in the exact same game. I mean, through the first 3 innings, Rogers looked like she was just on cruise control, dominant, and now all of a sudden 5 consecutive out of the zone.
And you can see a little bit in her mannerisms as well that she seems to be a bit frustrated with whether that be her grip on the ball or just the rain coming down in general. But at the end of the day, you've got to be able to block those things out and just focus and trust your process that you do every other pitch.
And now it looks like the umpires are going to call the players off the field here in a 6-0 game in the fourth. Rain is falling at its most steady in this game. And it looks like they're going to bring the tarp onto the field. It was here when we got here. They took it off about an hour before original first pitch. And with Tennessee leading it 6-0 here in the fourth inning, the tarp's coming out on the field, and we'll step out for a break. Tennessee leads Kansas 6-0, and after an hour and 12-minute rain delay, we'll get back into action here at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium. Ashley Rogers had been flowing along until that rain started to pick up. She went the front 9 of the game, retiring all of them. Then she walked the first batter of this inning on 4 pitches, and then the rain really started to come down. So we resume the game with a 1-ball, no-strike count on Sykes as the first pitch out of the delay is low. And Bermel is over at first base for Kansas. There's a strike. Tennessee also makes a change defensively. Gracie Osborne, in her first game as a Lady Vol, is out of the contest, trying to limit her action. Leach moves over to short, and now Savannah Huffstetler over at second base. Be interesting to see how Rogers comes out here after that rain delay. One of the first sequences where she'll have that here in her college career.
And most of these pitchers are used to having to throw double headers, so they're used to throwing a lot of innings. It's all about just managing your time during that delay. Like you said, it was an hour and 12 minutes. Ashley Rogers needs to learn what's best for her. Does she need to throw a ton, or does she need to not, maybe throw as much? For her, it's all just a learning experience and being able to come back out and be extremely sharp.
Sykes pops one up on the infield left side. Segern puts a squeeze on it, and that's the first out. here in the fourth inning. And Kansas coming out just trying to get something going from an offensive perspective, but Rogers has done a nice job mixing things up here against this Kansas lineup that has had some injuries this year.
Yeah, and Madison Sykes was only one of 3 batters in their entire lineup that has played and started in all 10 games so far this season, so they're still trying to figure out what's going to be the best lineup for Kansas moving forward.
So that brings the top hitter in this lineup to the plate, Gayer, who struck out swinging her first time up. Tennessee scored 4 in the first inning. They added 2 in the bottom of the third on a Haley Bearden home run. Rain still dripping a little bit, but not too bad here on this Friday. Pop to shallow left field. Leach going out. Ayala takes charge, and the left fielder puts it away. So Rogers has done a good job coming out. She had thrown 5 straight out of the zone prior to the rain delay and has been pinpoint coming back from the weather issues.
You can see she just has a lot more control of her pitches in the first at-bat of this inning. A lot of her pitches were falling out low and inside to the righties, outside to the lefties, and now she has more control over that ball, getting it back over the middle of the plate.
Misses down and away to Becky Monaghan. Flew out to right field her first time up. You have the freshman battery out there of Rogers in the circle and Allie Shipman behind the plate. This one's way upstairs. That was part of the issue that she had prior to the rain delay. She was missing so far out of the zone and certainly not as pinpoint as she had shown to begin this season.
And don't let this score deceive you. These Kansas batters have had really tough at-bats against Ashley Rogers so far this game, and that's why you're not seeing them swing at those pitches way over their head.
Good pitch there from Rogers to get back into it. Rogers has struck out 4 so far in this contest. There have been some balls sent to the outfield. The 2-1 pitch is a swing and a fly ball. Right center field. Parsons coming on, and she makes the catch, and that ends the inning. So out of the rain delay, it's Rogers sending them down in order. Tennessee coming to the plate in the 4th, up 6. Might be dreary outside, but the Lady Vol Locos still having some fun here at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium as Tennessee leads it 6-0. And earlier, about an hour ago, rain started to pick up. They had to put the tarp on the field, and Coach Jennifer McFalls was not very happy with the fact that they had to tarp the field and go into a rain delay when I think she thought her team was starting to gain some momentum.
I think so too, especially when you're going into that top of the 4th inning and you finally get your first batter on base. You want to try to build on that momentum and take advantage of it. And unfortunately for Kansas, we had to go into that rain delay, and now here we are in the bottom of the 4th, and they're going to try to shut things down to get their bats back up to the lineup again.
Tennessee leading it 6-0. They scored 4 in the first inning. They added 2 more in the third.
Leading up for Tennessee in the bottom of the 4th, the center fielder, number 3, Caitlin Parsons.
And Caitlin Parsons will stand in. She dribbled one back to the circle her first time up. And Mandy Roberts back out to work on in relief of Bryn Miner. First pitch swinging. Parson rolls one right back up the middle and underneath the glove of Rodriguez for a base hit. Tennessee's offense doesn't miss a beat with a leadoff single here in the 4th.
Caitlin Parsons, another slapper in this Tennessee lineup, does a very good job of keeping her left foot inside of that chalk line and is able to drive that base hit right up the middle to try to get something started here for the Lady Vols in the bottom of the 4th.
Parsons has stepped in very nicely for the Weeklies, and now Leach comes in, a single and a double in her 2 trips thus far. Squaring the bunt and taking low and outside. Her first at-bat was a single right back up the middle. Her second at-bat was a deep drive to left field. And as you've mentioned, her first 2 at-bats, she does it a little bit of every type of way you can imagine. And the defense having to adjust to that with the corners in.
And this situation is particularly difficult for this defense, especially as a shortstop, because you know that Aubrey Leach has the ability to slap. So you've got to wait until that ball is put in play to break over to second base, where Caitlin Parsons has very good speed and could steal on you. So it's very tough at short trying to decide what you're going to do.
Because you absolutely can't leave that hole on the left side of the infield. Leach has all the ability in the world to be able to place a ball perfectly in that area, and if you're focused on the runner, she could end up at third base with a little single on the left. There's a 4-pitch walk from Roberts. Tennessee with runners at first and second base now. Roberts on in relief of Minor. And Tennessee will bring on a pinch hitter, Tiana Batts. A junior will stand in. With runners at first and second base, Tennessee, with a couple runs here, they can end this one in the top of the 5th inning if Kansas isn't able to get anything going offensively.
And I think what Tennessee's trying to do here, they're putting another slapper in this lineup. They want to try to get the ball on the ground. It's no secret that the ball's wet out there. It's still drizzling a little bit. They want to put the pressure on this defense and see if they can make mistakes.
So Batts digs in with 2 on and nobody out. She takes downstairs. Batts this year 3 of 6 at the plate. She's driven in a pair and scored 3 times. So she's been ultra productive when she's been at the dish. You can hear the chanting. It is Tiana Batts' birthday today. And would be a nice little present for her if she could come up with a little clutch, a little base hit here in the bottom of the 4th inning.
Little birthday hit for Tiana Batts.
Batts takes a strike. It's 2-1. Tennessee offensively in this one has had some quality at bats throughout. And so far, really everybody in the lineup has reached base with the exception of this 2 spot. That's the 3rd person to occupy that. And it's now 3-1. And Roberts, who had been seldom used prior to this one, here in a big spot early in this season, and she's doing her best right now to at least try to keep her team in this one.
And Roberts is one of those pitchers that likes to spin the ball a lot, but one of the downsides is sometimes the ball doesn't go exactly where you want it to, so she's got to come back and try to find that strike zone exactly like she does right there. She's got to do her job to keep the ball low in the zone, get the ball on the ground, and trust your defense that they can make these plays with that wet ball.
You feel like this is a big pitch. 2 on, nobody out, 3 balls and 2 strikes.
Absolutely. Momentum one way or another.
Batts hits one just past the second baseman, Rodriguez, and into right. Here comes Parsons to the plate. The throw beats her. Tag is applied. Leach hustling to third. She's in safely. But for the 2nd time in this game, Tennessee has a runner thrown out at the plate. This time it comes from the arm of Marwitz in right.
Just a phenomenal play by Jennifer Marwitz. Comes up firing to home, and again, we've been talking about how wet this ball is. It is so important for outfielders to make sure they're grabbing the seams. Tiana Batts gets herself a little birthday hit, but Marwitz says, no RBI for you. I am shutting that one down at home.
I mean, that was a perfect throw. Beat Parsons by a couple different steps. And a nice tag from Gayer there. And that's the first out. So Tennessee's had a couple players thrown out. Now Chelsea Segern. She takes the ball low and outside. Segern this year has 4 multi-RBI games as Batts takes second. She's scored a run in now 6 of her last 7 contests. And a chance for another multi-RBI game with runners at second and third base and just 1 out. What have you seen from the development of Segern? Because last year, around this time, teams were walking Megan Gregg to get to her. What have you seen from her the last calendar year to adjust her game?
I think she's just been so much more confident in her approach in the box.
She rips this one down the right field line. It is fair and going to the wall. 2 runs will score. Leach and Bats are in. Segern with her 5th multi-RBI game of the season, and it's 8-0 Tennessee.
And just as we were talking about what makes Chelsea Segern so clutch, there it is. She goes up there with a confident approach, fouled off the pitch before, but gets a pitch that she can handle right over the heart of the plate and drives it right down the right field line to get 2 RBIs and get 2 more runs for her team. And now the score is 8-0, which completely changes the entire dynamic of this game.
Tennessee now 3 outs away from run-ruling Kansas. And it looks like Kansas will make a pitching change here. In this inning, there have been 3 hits and a walk. The only out was the great throw from right field by Marwitz to gun down Parsons at the plate. So it looks like Coach McFalls will have to go to her 3rd pitcher of the game. And she will bring in Taryn Travieso. Will come in, so we'll get a chance to see her, the all-freshman pick from a year ago who had an arm injury and wasn't released to throw until the first weekend of this season. So we mentioned it at the outset, injuries with this group, and this is a big piece for Kansas, and it'll be interesting to see how she handles the situation here in a late-game situation against the 8th-ranked team in the country.
Well, Travieso is really big for this Kansas team, not only on the mound, but also in the lineup. She plays first base, and she's also a DP, so they're missing her in their batting lineup as well. But she's going to come on this mound, and she's going to really spin the ball, and she's going to mix in that changeup as well. But one of the things that Coach McFalls really loves about Travieso is that she is a competitor on the mound. She is feisty, and she never gives up.
Coach McFall said that she's definitely going to give innings moving forward. It's just a question of when she's able to get back to full strength. This will be her first appearance in the circle this season.
And that's always so hard as an athlete when you know you are just that close to being fully cleared and to not have to worry about that injury anymore. But they said that they're still slowly working her back into the lineup. They don't want to bring her out there too soon and further injure her arm. But at the same time, they know that they really need her on the mound. So it's a tough thing to balance as a coach.
She had 109 at-bats a year ago, hit 275 with 4 home runs, had 14 appearances in the circle, went 2-1 with a 4.41 earned run average. She struck out as many as she walked, 20 and 39 2/3. She'll deal with Ashley Morgan, with Tennessee scoring twice here in the bottom of the 4th inning. While pretty much every player on the field, at least as of right now, have played in 8 to 10 games, this is her first appearance. So almost like a spring training, getting her ready for the season with her in the circle now.
And what a spot to throw her out there with a runner on second base, playing the number 8th ranked Tennessee, and you're going against Ashley Morgan, who has just been red hot this entire season.
Morgan, an RBI single in the 1st inning. Upping her season tally into double figures, 4th Lady Vol this season with at least 10 RBIs, spreading the wealth early. Took something off of that, missed away. Having a left-hander out there is beneficial for Kansas, but also for Tennessee to see another left-hand hurler out there to get a different look here in the early season.
Well, and Tennessee has a very lefty-heavy lineup, so it's important for them to see the way that the ball comes into the box because, again, it's going to spin differently. Those curveballs are going to break away from the left-handed batters versus with a right-handed pitcher, curveballs are going to break inside. So they really got to work on staying long through the ball to drive through it, and that's where mistakes are made. And, again, that's what McFall said she really likes about Travieso is the fact that her left hand brings a completely different look to their staff.
7 of Tennessee's 9 starters today hit from the left-hand side. And Travieso, the only left-hand thrower for Kansas at the disposal for Coach McFalls. Morgan's run the string out here, 3-2. She rockets one back up the middle into center field, a base hit. Seguin cuts the corner at third and scores easily on the base hit for Morgan, who stays hot. Her second RBI single of the game. It's 9-0 Tennessee.
Ashley Morgan working herself into a really good count. Full count here, and she gets a pitch on the outer half. And just like we were talking about, that curveball is going to break away from these lefties, but Ashley Morgan does a very good job of staying long through that ball and driving it into center field.
So now Amanda Ayala. She scored twice, and an RBI single back in the first inning on the squeeze bunt. Tennessee's now up 9-0, having scored in every inning but the second. Pitch misses up and away here. Kansas has scheduled difficult this season. 8 different ranked teams, some of those coming in Big 12 play, but a challenging schedule, trying to set the tone for this group under the first year of Coach McFalls.
Well, we talked earlier about that competitor mentality that Coach McFalls is trying to instill in this Kansas team, and what better way to do that than to go out and play the top competition in the country. You can see they lost to Oregon and Arizona State earlier in the year. They're playing Tennessee right now, but then you go through their conference schedule, playing Oklahoma and Texas. I mean, it is just absolutely loaded throughout, but that's going to prepare them mentally for the postseason.
Ayala takes a strike. It's 1-2. We asked her what a successful 2019 season would be. And a lot of times coaches might get lost in the wins and losses, but she said the ability to prepare them to be more competitive in the Big 12 was the number one thing she wanted to get out of this year. To compete at a much higher level than they had in the past. 2014-15, this program was in the NCAA tournament each season. They haven't been back there since, and the win totals have been dwindling over the last few years as well.
And I've got to imagine that starts with the mentality of her players, and that competitiveness and that will to win is what drives these teams to the postseason. And ultimately, every team that sets foot on the field wants to make it to the postseason. And you can tell that is definitely her goal as a coach, to come in here and try to change this whole program to bring them back to the postseason.
Travieso gets a strikeout of Ayala. Good pitch off the plate away. And now it brings Haley Bearden to the plate. She has homered today, but I'm sure she would have potentially traded it for this game against Florida State and the catch against Danny Morgan that would have tied the ball game at the time on Sunday.
That was just absolutely a phenomenal catch. I was standing right down the left field line, and I was hoping it was going to go over as I was there as a fan last weekend. But, man, that was just a great catch. But Haley Bearden coming up against a top-ranked Florida State, being aggressive and able to drive that ball out. It was a huge momentum change for both teams. I mean, Tennessee was excited that they finally got hard bat on the ball, and on the flip side, it propelled Florida State to end up holding their lead and ultimately getting the win in that game.
Bearden will be brought back, and it will be Piscini. So a big build-up to bring Piscini to the plate here with 2 outs in the fourth. And I thought it was interesting what Coach Weekly said is her team has not made an error all season, one of 2 teams that haven't. And she mentioned that sometimes you need plays like that, great plays, to really say that you have a good defense. It's not just the 1,000 in the fielding percentage area. Fly ball down the right field line will get out of play, and it's 1-1.
And I talked about the momentum a little bit, but just a play like that and seeing your outfielder give that kind of effort as a pitcher, I mean, you just got to feel on top of the world when your outfielder is willing to go over the fence and bring that ball back and rob a game-tying home run. It's just huge, and that's what Karen Weekly said, that she wants to work with their outfielders to try to make those kinds of plays going forward in the season.
Florida State won the national championship last year, and Karen Weekly said that a lot of good things came out of that game in particular. She learned that her team was not going to quit no matter what happened on the year. But she also said, looking across the field, She saw what it would take to compete at a national championship caliber level, and then it was good for the kids to see where they're lacking and what they need to improve upon. Tennessee has been to 7 Women's College World Series, and this senior class hasn't been there yet. 2019 hoping to be the year for the Lady Vols. Cassini fouls another one off down the right field line.
And you can see how just in this at-bat alone, having that lefty in the circle completely changes the lineup for Tennessee. They ended up putting in Maddie Piscini here, a righty, to hit against this lefty pitcher because they know that the lefty pitcher is going to try to throw the ball away to the lefty hitters.
Payoff pitch is hit hard on the ground to Rodriguez at second. She'll turn it over to first and end the inning. But Tennessee, it's 3 more runs. They'll try to run rule Kansas, and Ashley Rogers will look for a no-hitter as Tennessee leads Kansas 9-0 after 4. Wednesday, we'll have number 5 team in the country right here on the SEC Network when Tennessee takes on Ole Miss at the Pavilion in Oxford. 7 Eastern, 6 Central, and you can always watch it on the ESPN app from anywhere. Tennessee leads Kansas 9-0 as we go to the top of the 5th inning here at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium. And Ashley Rogers will try to close this one out here in the top of the 5th inning. She has allowed just 1 base runner. That was a leadoff walk in the 4th. Travieso will lead things off for Kansas, so she gets her first action in the circle in the top half of this inning. And now 0 for 10 on the year at the plate, trying to get her first poke of the season. Swing and a miss. Couple changes for Tennessee as well. Batts is in left field. Treasury Poindexter is now in right field for the Lady Vols. Travieso fouls one back. You have to feel good about what Rogers has been able to do because it looked like the wheels were just about to fall off in the 4th. She missed with 5 consecutive pitches, and then the rain started to get heavy, and they pulled the tarp, and she's responded since coming back into the circle, needing just so far 56 pitches in this game.
She's really kept her composure, too. She's working at the same pace every pitch, and you can tell she has a lot more control over these at-bats than she did in the 4th.
Travieso strikes out swinging. Rogers took something off of it to get her 5th punch out.
And how about that off-speed? Ashley Rogers coming in with that changeup at 51 miles an hour and gets it right on that low and outside portion of the plate. And Travieso is just too far out in front of it to make contact. That's a great way for Ashley Rogers to come out here and start the top of the 5th.
Now 2 outs away from becoming the 46th individual in Tennessee history to record a no-hitter. Misses high here to Marwitz. Marwitz flew out to center, her only time up in this game thus far. Pitch stays high. If you're Kansas, you leave this game, and as we talked about with Bryn Minor, the starter for the Jayhawks, you probably feel like you perform better than what the stat sheet is going to say. In terms of the competitiveness, the barometer for Coach McFalls, this team still has some things to get back in line, and that's more so injuries than anything else. Absolutely,
and I think Bryn Minor did a great job of keeping the ball on the ground and making her defense work. The difference is Tennessee was able to capitalize on some of those mistakes that her defense ended up making. In Haley Bearden's at bat, there was a ball dropped behind home plate, and she ends up hitting a home run to capitalize that. And if that out had been made at home, then she doesn't come back up, and another 2 runs aren't on the board right now.
Fly ball foul off of third. 2-2 the count here to Marwitz.
But on the flip side, I think that their defense has shown some moments of brilliance with Marwitz making that play at home. They made 2 plays at home to cut off some more runs. So you've got to take some positives away from plays like that, and especially playing in conditions where it's really wet out there like it is today.
2-2s hit sharply on the ground, back up the middle. Leach will throw out Marwitz by a step at first, and Kansas now down to their final out. And I think, too, the other aspect for Minor and Roberts, keeping the ball on the ground against this Tennessee side, there's just been some seeing eye singles. You take a couple of those where it hits a glove, at very least gets knocked down. This game could be a lot tighter.
As a defense, you know that you cannot defend the home run, but you know your pitcher's going to give you a chance if she can get that ball on the ground, and that's what Bryn Minor did earlier in this game.
Rogers finds the strike zone. Last no-hitter for Tennessee came back March 22nd, 2016. Aaron Gabriel against Jacksonville went 5 innings and a 10-0 victory over the Dolphins. 7 strikeouts in that contest. And she finds the outer half against this left-hand hitter on back-to-back pitches. Tennessee leading at 9-0 and Kansas down to its final strike. Rogers consults the wristband. Now the 0-2. Went too far outside this time around. Certainly, she has been in control for much of this game, with the exception of one batter at the end of the day.
Yeah, I know we keep talking about it like it was 3 or 4 innings long. It was really just one batter. I guess because of the rain delay, it seemed longer. But, you know, we talked about whether or not she was going to be able to respond from that rain delay, and I think she has done a very good job of going out there and staying in control. And you'll notice that she's throwing her off-speed a lot more in these past 2 innings than she did in the previous 3, and I've got to wonder if that's because maybe she can grip those off-speeds more than she can her fast pitches.
1-2. Hit sharply off of first. And we'll do it once more. I think there's a lot of confidence, as there should be, in Maddie Moss and Kaylin Arnold. And now you add this third piece to the puzzle. And any given weekend now in SEC play, one pitcher can afford to not have their A game because you feel like the other 2 are going to pick up the slack. Pitch bounces in the dirt and goes to the backstop.
And as a pitching staff, you have the freedom to maybe, you know, just throw one pitcher one game, throw another the next game, and throw another the next game. It just kind of depends on how it's going. But these pitchers, all comp is going to throw that drop ball that's coming off the end. And she's even added a bit of an off-speed, too, to really just enhance her game as well. I think this pitching staff can do great things throughout the season.
Moss has the 3rd best career ERA in program history. Kaylin Arnold was an all-region pick a year ago. And as we're talking about this, Rogers has run the count full here on Rodriguez. She's issued just 1 base runner, a leadoff walk in the 4th. Payoff pitch on the way. Rodriguez hits it back up the middle. Leach ranging to her left, throws to first, off of the glove of Morgan. And that should be and is the first hit of the ball game for Kansas. Good effort from Leach to even get to the ball, first of all. And then Morgan with the full stretch just couldn't squeeze it on a bang-bang play at first.
A very tough play for any shortstop to make. Rodriguez gets this ball right off the end of the bat, and Aubrey tries to get rid of it as quick as she can. Look at that stretch by Ashley Morgan over at first base, trying to do whatever they can to get that hit from not counting, but unfortunately for Tennessee, that hit does go against them. But kudos to Miranda Rodriguez for battling, getting to a full count and getting a pitch that she could handle and driving that really where nobody was. And Aubrey Leach makes a great play on it, but Miranda Rodriguez too fast gets down the line.
Well, Jennifer McFall talked about competing every single pitch in all 7 innings. Well, you're down to your last strike, and you battle back to get a base knock. And you never know what could happen. You never know if another seeing eye single here or a walk now that Rogers is down 2 balls and no strikes. Anything could happen right now that could get Kansas at least somewhat back into this one. They trail it 9-0 here in the 5th.
And I wouldn't be surprised if you start to see more and more of those off speeds from Ashley Rogers. She seemed to have the most control over those in the beginning part of this inning. So she started to try to throw those rise balls to Rodriguez, and she didn't swing at them because they were way too far out of the zone. So again, would not be surprised if I see more off speeds.
2-0 the count. After a quick conversation between the freshmen, she splits the plate in half for a called strike. It's 2-1. Shelby Houston, who struck out swinging her first time up, trying to extend this game like Rodriguez just did with the infield single. Owning the inner half that time was Rogers. Good pitch right on the black on the inner half. And she gets right back into the count at 2-2. And once again, Kansas down to its final strike. There's strike 3 called, and Tennessee secures a 19th consecutive home opening victory as Rogers strikes out her 6th batter.
Well, we saw great pitching from Ashley Rogers today. The freshman going out in some crazy conditions with this rain and an hour and 12-minute rain delay, but ends up coming out on top, and Tennessee's